Cool. So I had to, after upgrading my Mac, I had to go get Xcode. Not totally sure what that is, but once I installed it, I was able to use GoGet again, and it worked. So that was the solution to that. We were looking at Postgres in the Go programming language, and the next thing we're going to do is look at the driver. So the driver is right here for Postgres, and so we came to SQL, package SQL for Go, and we looked at the drivers, and then with the drivers, right, we could read a little bit about this Postgres driver. There was a couple of drivers there, and we saw that for Postgres there were these right here, and so we went with this one, and to read about that takes us to GitHub, so same place. And then we could just see here what it tells us. So go get to install it, and you go get that package. And then docs for detailed documentation and basic usage examples. Please see the package documentation right here. And tests for use for testing. Go test. See tests markdown for details. Features, secure socket layer. Handles bad connections for database SQL. So features, future things you can help with. Thank you alphabetically. Awesome. Interesting. And then here's GoDocs package. In most cases, clients will use the database SQL package instead of using this package directly. So here's database SQL. And then here we're getting the driver. And when you see this underscore, it means go get this package and then assign it to nothing. So that's an alias, and the alias is nothing. So that underscore basically says, I need this to be the code to be gotten, but I'm not going to use it. And so it'll just be used in the background. We aren't going to use it. So that's what that means right there. And so we have a user, and then a database name, and an SSL mode, and an example there, and connection. Or like this, you can also construct a database. You can connect to a database using a URL. For example, this one right here, connection string. So we have connection string and connection string two ways. We have user, database name, SSL mode, kind of up here. Or we have connections down here where it's the user is PG Go test, and here we have a password. I don't see where the password is up here. And localhost PGO test, looks like that's the database, and SSL mode right there is verify full. When establishing a connection using Postgres, you are expected to supply a connection string containing 0 or more parameters. A subset of the connection parameters supported by library Postgres are also supported by Postgres. Postgres lets you specify runtime parameters. This is different from which does runtime parameters. Valid values for SSL mode, disable, require, so different SSL secure socket layer. That's the HTTPS encryption. Use single quotes for values that contain white space. Password with spaces. Backslash will escape the next character and values. Data types. Bulk imports. Notifications, index. Examples, new connector. So we get a connector, open the connector, and then close it, and then DB. So some things to figure out. So if we look at what we have here, we have SQL open Postgres. And if we compare that to what we had here, open Postgres, right there, and then the connection strings right there. So I guess open, SQL open, we look at package SQL. SQL open is driver name, and then data source name string. So open opens a database specified by its database driver name. So driver name. And a driver specific data source name, usually consisting of at least a database name and a connection information. Most users will open a database via driver specific connection helper function that returns a pointer to DB. So driver specific connection helper function, which returns a pointer to DB. Note about database drivers are included in the Go standard library. Go there for a list of third-party drivers. Open may just validate its arguments without creating a connection to the database. To verify the data source name is valid, call ping. The return database is safe for concurrent use and maintains its own pool of idle connections. Thus, the open function should be called just once. It's rarely necessary to close a DB. Rarely necessary to close a DB. So we've got SQL open. Driver name is Postgres. And then we have the connection string, which here is like this. So it looks like the username is Bond, which confuses me a little bit just from my previous notes, because in the previous example, if we look at the markdown here, right, we didn't create, we created user Bond with password. So there we're creating Bond. In this example here, we created the user James with password, so I'm going to drop the user James. So we'll explore this further in the next video. So we're just kind of like getting started with it. And what's this video about? Kind of exploring drivers and package